Hello everyone, welcome back at Exampur. Today we'll be discussing about diseases, and yes, it is going to be theoretical section which is going to be very beneficial for your examination. Now, there's a question for you. The question is, do you know that sleeping sickness is an infection? Now, you must be thinking, sir, what? Sleeping sickness is an infection? Yeah, you heard that right. Now, what is sleeping sickness? Sir, whenever we study now, we feel sleepy. It's not about that. Obviously, whenever you study, you feel sleepy. That's a totally different thing. But here, when we are talking about the sleeping sickness, it is also an infection. Now, there's a word. What is infection? I'll be explaining that part. But before that, let's have a look at the answer. If I talk about sleeping sickness, it is caused because of trypanosoma. Now, what's that? Just have a look over here. There's a fly that is known as CC fly, right? If that particular fly is having this trypanosoma and if enters into your body, what would be the issue? The issue is known as sleeping sickness, where it is actually going to control your nervous system, and yes, you will be feeling sleepy. But we were talking about what? Infectious disease. What is that? Let's have a look. If I talk about infectious disease, what is that? So before understanding infectious disease, there's one more word. What is that? Disease. So what is disease? Disease is a condition in which a body is actually not feeling well, or we say that body is not working in the proper manner. What's that? Disease is a condition in which body does not function normally and there is certain issue. Now, what kind of issue can be? You're not feeling well. We say, na, sir, I'm not feeling well today. That means your either energy level would be low, or you can say that, sir, there is some sort of pain. There are many issues which are there. So I'll say that your body is not functioning normally. Now, it is indicated with different signs and symptoms, where I was talking about what energy level may be down, you're feeling pain, or sir, this is particular issue which is coming in our body. That is what? That is actually because of disease. Now, disease may be caused by different organisms. So yes, if I talk about pathogens, what are they? Pathogens are disease causing organism, where we can take the example of a bacteria, you can talk about virus, you can talk about fungi, right? Now, if I talk about this particular part, diseases, so there are different type of diseases. I was talking about what? Infectious disease. So it is one of its kind. Let's have a look. Disease can be classified into infectious disease, where we were discussing about trypanosoma. Remember? Sleeping sickness. Then we have non-infectious disease. Then we have genetic or inherited diseases. Then we have deficiency disease and degenerative diseases. Now what are they? Let's have a look. If I talk about these types, so first of all, let's talk about infectious disease, where we were talking about the trypanosoma. Remember? So yes, what is infectious disease? Infectious diseases are transmitted from one person to another, and it is actually caused by pathogens. We have already discussed about pathogens. What are they? You can talk about bacteria, you can talk about virus, you can talk about those protozoans. All these are what? These are actually pathogens. Now, what are its example? Its example can be typhoid, where we can discuss, sir, all those issues where even we talk about fever, right? And it is very serious issue. Then talking about tuberculosis, where there's a person who keeps on coughing. That is TB, tuberculosis. So it is actually caused because of Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So yes, that coughing issue. All these particular issues are actually known as infectious diseases. Why? Because it can be transmitted from one person to another. Now, if I talk about this Mycobacterium tuberculosis, so just have a look. What is happening? If someone coughs, so because of even the droplets, I'll write here for you. Even if I talk about droplets, so because of the droplets, also this particular disease can be transmitted, and that's why it is infectious. Now moving forward, talking about non-infectious disease, so they cannot be transmitted from one person to another, and hence we can say that they are not transmitted by the pathogens, where we were discussing about bacteria, virus and all. It is not transmitted by them. Then how it is caused? Let's have a look some of its examples. Some of its example includes diabetes mellitus. Just have a look. If I talk about a foot, this is actually a diabetic foot. Let's have a magnified image over here. What happens here? If I talk about this diabetes mellitus, what happens? In our body, our glucose level goes very high. How? There's a part which is known as pancreas. We know about that, right? It is in our body, where if I talk about pancreas, from there, isolate of Langerhans part is there. What is that? Isolate of Langerhans is the part which is present in pancreas, where we have alpha, beta and delta cells. From this beta cells, insulin is generated. Now what happens? Actually the balance of insulin and glucose is maintained. But if this beta cell is not working in the proper manner, or by any case insulin's level is going down, so obviously this glucose level will be higher in comparison to insulin, and this particular issue will be known as diabetes mellitus. And here we know that we are talking about what? Pancreas. So obviously there is no such pathogen that is acting. This kind of disease is non-infectious. Next, let's talk about genetic diseases. What are they? Genetic diseases are caused by gene mutations and they are actually inherited. This means what? Here we'll say that these particular issues can be transmitted, that is they are hereditary. Where example can be our parents was having that particular issue, now it is transmitted to us. So yes, you can talk about thalassemia or Down syndrome. These are actually genetic diseases where we talk about inherited diseases. Now talking about deficiency disease, what is deficiency disease? Just have a look. If I talk about this deficiency disease, here it is caused because of lack of nutrients in the diet. That is, if I talk about nutrients, what are they? You can talk about carbohydrate, you can talk about protein, you can talk about fats, all those stuffs. So proteins, fats, nutrients, all these are the things that are known as nutrients, and if they are lacking in our diet, it will lead to deficiency disease. Now, if I'm talking about nutrient, one of the nutrients which I can talk about is vitamin. Now, in vitamins, if we are lacking with vitamin D, if there is lack of vitamin D within our body, what will be the issue? The issue here will be known as rickets. And if I talk about vitamin B, lack of vitamin D will lead to beriberi, right? Now let's move forward and let's have a look towards next disease, and that is degenerative disease. Now what are they? Degenerative disease are actually occurring because of the change in tissues or the organs. Now the example can be, here it is osteoporosis or Parkinson's disease, which actually affects our nervous system. If I talk about osteoporosis, so from this word osteo itself we can remember what's that? Osteology, related to bones. So there's issue in the bones, right? Weakening of the bones. Okay, so this is degenerative disease which is caused by degenerative changes in the tissue or organs. Next, let's have a discussion on infectious disease now. What was infectious disease? These were the diseases which were caused by pathogens. Where we were talking about virus, we were talking about bacteria, we were talking about fungi, we were talking about protozoa. So here it is also known as communicable disease, and it is caused by various pathogens which includes viruses. Then we have bacteria, we have protozoans, we have fungi and parasites. Now in examination it is asked, so which is that issue which is caused by bacteria? There would be four options. One of them would be caused by bacteria, or there would be the name of that particular disease and there would be four options: bacteria, virus, fungi, protozoa, and it will be asked this issue is caused by what. So let's have a look which particular issue is caused by what. So first of all, we'll go with viral infections. That is, from name itself it is clear, viral infections. That means we are talking about virus. So if I talk about the issues which are caused by virus, the latest one we are aware of. What is that? COVID-19. Because of that COVID-19, there were so many issues in the whole world that we were in the state of lockdown. Remember that? So yes, if I talk about virus diseases, what all diseases are there? There's dengue, there's COVID-19, there's influenza, there's AIDS. So if I want to go in depth, there are some of the examples which may be asked in the examination. So only those particular things we will be discussing which are important for the examination point of view. For example, dengue. Dengue is actually caused by mosquitoes, right? But if I talk about this AIDS, from this AIDS question is asked many times. So this AIDS, full form is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. What is that? Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Now this AIDS is caused by what? This AIDS is actually caused by HIV virus, that is human immunodeficiency virus, right? So yes, HIV virus causes it, but what is the question that is asked? One is full form and another one is its testing is done by what? So its testing is done by ELISA. So this is the testing which is done for AIDS. Now even its full form is asked. So what is its full form? Its full form is enzyme linked immunosorbate assay. What's that? enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. Very important question. Do not forget, all these questions are previously asked. Next, if I talk about bacterial infections, so obviously they are caused by bacteria. Now if I talk about bacteria, so issue that is coming because of unsafe water or the water which is not safe for drinking, and if we have unsafe water in which some bacteria are there, it may lead to cholera, right? If I talk about diphtheria, it causes issue in the neck. So that is diphtheria, meningitis, where we talk about the issue in the brain or the nervous system. So yes, these are the issues which are caused because of bacteria. So cholera, diphtheria and meningitis is the example. Talking about fungal diseases. So fungal diseases includes what? It is ringworm of the body or athlete's foot. Ringworm. We have seen that round shaped structure in our body, right? If I talk about this particular part, that is athlete's foot, just have a look. If I talk about our foot, if we are in the bad water or the water which is not good, if we are putting leg for a long time or we are wearing socks for a longer time, here we have some infection, that is fungal infection, and this particular part is what? That is athlete's foot. Okay, so this was the fungal infection. Now talking about protozoal infection, so obviously this is caused by protozoans, where you can talk about malaria. Now this is asked in the examination. Malaria is caused by what? So malaria is actually caused by Plasmodium. So Plasmodium is this particular, if I talk about this mosquito, so it is causing what? That is malaria. If I talk about African sleeping sickness, which is caused by Trypanosoma. So this African sickness, sleeping sickness, is actually caused by a fly that is known as CC fly, right? So CC fly is the one which, if it carries Trypanosoma, it will lead to sleeping sickness, where we feel sleepy always. Okay. Next, talking about parasitic infection. So if I talk about parasites, its example is hookworm or elephantiasis. Now what is elephantiasis? This is asked in the examination. If I talk about this particular part, just have a look at this image. Here we can see the swelling in this particular leg, and it seems like it is the leg of an elephant, right? Since it is having a larger size, that's why we are relating it to the elephant. That is elephantiasis. So this is the example of a parasital infection, that is, it is caused because of parasites. Next, let's talk about bacteria now. I was talking about several diseases. I have given the example. Now in the examination, it is directly asked, either it will be asking which of the following disease is related to bacteria, or they will be giving one disease. They will be giving four options, which is of this particular disease is caused by what? So option will be virus, bacteria, fungi, all those stuffs. Okay, so bacteria actually causes tuberculosis, that is TB. It is caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis, where we were talking about coughing and all. Then pneumonia, streptococcal infections, gonorrhea, scarlet fever, tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis, bubonic plague. So here all these issues are caused because of bacteria. Next, if I talk about virus, so virus causes which particular disease? Here we know that would be AIDS, one of the best example we have already discussed. Here you can talk about HIV, that is virus. Then influenza, herpes simplex or zoster. Then we have hepatitis. All the types of hepatitis are caused because of this virus. Common cold. Then poliomyelitis. Then measles, mumps, rubella, and then infectious mononucleosis. All these are caused because of virus. Next, if I'll move forward, let's have a look at the fungi. So fungi creates what? So fungi leads to candidiasis. Then we have athlete's foot. We have already seen that image, right? Athlete's foot. We are that because of the fungal infection. Now talking about jock itch. So obviously itching part, we know that. Then nail fungus, ringworm, histoplasmosis. All these are caused because of fungi. Now one of the questions which is very important for the examination, the fungus which we can eat is which one? So the fungus which we can eat is mushroom. So mushroom is the example of fungus. And please remember, mushroom is the one which we can eat, and it's very, very healthy as well. Okay. Next, talking about protozoa. So protozoan diseases are what? It is amoebiasis, then amoebic meningoencephalitis, then we have malaria, trichomoniasis, then giardiasis, then we have balantidiasis, then we have cryptosporidiosis, and then we have pneumocytosis. All these are caused because of these protozoa. So these are actually the protozoan diseases. Then comes your parasites, where we will talk about helminthes. Here, which are those particular diseases? Here we have trichuriasis, then hookworm, then lymphatic filariasis, then we have schistosomiasis, and then we have ascariasis. All these are the diseases which are parasital diseases. Now, if I'll move forward, if I'll talk about some of the important questions, so we have some of the important questions. So I've actually kept these questions in the ending as well. So we'll be discussing about that. Now, talking about non-infectious diseases. So if I talk about non-infectious diseases, obviously they are non-communicable. That is, here no such parasites and all are involved. What are they? Here if I talk about cardiovascular diseases or diabetes or chronic respiratory diseases or cancer, they are not linked with any kind of microorganism, that was including bacteria, virus and all, right? So these are non-infectious diseases or non-communicable diseases. Then if I talk about causative factors, how you are going to get these particular diseases. So you can talk about unhealthy food choices, where if I talk about some of the food which is having the high amount of sodium, it will lead to hypertension. So higher amount of sodium can lead to hypertension, that is there would be issue in your heart. If I talk about foods with the higher content of bad cholesterol, it will again lead to heart diseases. Next, talking about physical inactivity, that is if I'm talking about the person who's always lying on a bed, he's not doing any kind of exercise. So what I'll say, here's the person that is doing what? It is keeping his body unhealthy. That is lack of physical exercise or not is not a direct factor actually. But if I'll actually add it with some of the factors, it will lead to hypertension. Then lifestyle habits like tobacco chewing, smoking, they actually lead to chronic lung diseases. So what are the examples? Here we can talk about hypertension, we can talk about diabetes, heart disease and cancer. These are because not only because of unhealthy food habits, but also because of not having proper form of exercise as well. So these are the common, or we'll say combined form of those particular issues because of which hypertension, diabetes, heart disease or cancer are occurring, right? Now, if I talk about this causative factor, we have already discussed about it. You can talk about the smoking part. Obviously, it will be creating issue. Next, if I talk about mental health diseases. So in mental health diseases, what all things are there? In mental health diseases, you can talk about anxiety or depression, where these particular issues are the ones which are dealing with those particular nervous system part, where you can talk about brain. So here, let's discuss about it. Yeah, these questions we'll be discussing in the end. Yeah, talking about genetic diseases. So genetic diseases are due to mutations. Sometimes genes undergo a mutation which changes the instructions to formulate the protein, due to which protein doesn't work properly. And these disorders are actually known as genetic disorders. So these are disorders which are known as genetic disorders. Now, what are its examples? So before moving to the examples, what are its factors? What are its causative factors? What is it? First of all, I'll talk about environmental radiation. Then internal genetic conditions and chromosomes might suffer damage. For example, what are chromosomes? We have discussed it, right? Where we were discussing about, if I talk about humans, we have 46 chromosomes, that is 23 in pairs. Now, if I talk about the chromosome which is sex determining, that may be either XX or it may be XY. XX is actually for females, XY is for males. Now, what if only one chromosome is there? What if one extra chromosome comes in? We will be having a look at that as well. Let's have a look. So radiation exposure to X-rays, gamma rays, they actually cause mutations. Now the mutated genes are causative factors of genetic diseases, where we can talk about birth defects. Now from birth itself, there are certain defects. Now, what are they? If I talk about internal genetic conditions, defective genes that are passed from the parents, that is, these are the diseases which are coming from parents. So here you can talk about hemophilia. So hemophilia is a disease which comes from parents. Now, if I talk about the chromosomes, so damage to the chromosomes happen during the cell division itself. That is, when cell division is there, at that time itself there's a issue in the chromosome. Just have a look. And we know that if I talk about this chromosomes, if I'm talking about girls, it is XX. If I'm talking about boy, it is XY. So yes, here you can talk about Down syndrome. I'll be explaining that, right? So yes, if I talk about the example of genetic disorders, it includes hemophilia, it may be sickle cell anemia, it may be thalassemia, it may be Down syndrome, or it may be cystic fibrosis. Now I'll discuss about the important ones. First of all, let's discuss about hemophilia. What is that? Hemophilia is caused due to defective X chromosome, which is actually characterized by increasing clotting time. That is, if I talk about the blood clot, so blood clotting actually takes a lot of time, and that is actually your hemophilia. From the name itself, it is clear. Hemo. That is, we are talking about here blood. Why? Because from hemoglobin we can remember hemophilia part, right? Now if I talk about thalassemia, so it is caused by what? It is actually caused by mutation in the genes that synthesizes hemoglobin. Just have a look here. If I talk about the left hand, it is the person with the severe anemia. If I talk about the right hand, here it is the hand without anemia. Okay. So next we have Down syndrome. Now if I talk about Down syndrome, what is it? If I talk about Down syndrome, so it is the people who are affected with this part will have one extra chromosome. Just have a look. What is it? If I talk about the chromosomes, so if it is XX, we talk about female. If it is XY, it is male. What if I talk about one more X here? So it will lead to what? Trisomy, right? So here, just have a look. If I talk about this part, so here what is happening? From name itself it is giving trisomy, that is 3 of the chromosomes are there, right? So yes, this is actually known as trisomy. Now let's have a look at the questions. So diabetes mellitus is caused due to insufficient secretion of what? So we have 4 options here. Just have a look. Diabetes mellitus is caused because of insufficient secretion of what? We have discussed. If I talk about diabetes mellitus, what was happening? Insulin level was actually lesser in comparison to glucose. So it will be happening because of what? We have already known. What is that? Insulin. So yes, option number A, that is insulin, is going to be the correct answer. Next question is, the causative organism for the athlete's foot is dash. So we have discussed what? We were discussing about that foot. If you are wearing that socks for a longer time and if there's that particular fungi, it will lead to what? Here, that is going to leading to athlete's foot. Remember that part. So what is the correct answer? The correct answer is going to be fungi over here. Next, talking about the next question, the pathogen for the common cold is what? Now if I talk about common cold, we have 4 options here. That is bacteria, virus, we have protozoa, helminthes. What is the correct answer? If I talk about this part, here your option number B, that is virus, is going to be the correct answer. Next, the causative organism for plague is what? So we have bacteria, virus, protozoa, parasites. Now we have 4 options here. Now what is going to be the correct answer? Here obviously first option, that is your bacteria, is going to be the correct answer. Next question we have, elephantiasis is caused by dash. Now remember what was elephantiasis? There we were talking about those particular legs which were looking like of elephant, right? So we have 4 of the options. Now which one is the correct answer? Roundworm, hookworm, tapeworm, or filarial worm? So if I'll go with these particular 4 options, here what is the correct answer? Filarial worm. Remember those particular legs which were seeming like that of elephant. So yes, filarial worm would be the correct answer. Next, talking about diseases that spread from one person to another are called what? So if we are talking about diseases which are spreading from one person to another, so here we were talking about certain pathogens. Remember that part? Bacteria, fungi and all. So yes, if diseases that are spreading from one person to another, they are known as communicable diseases. That is your option number B is going to be the correct answer. Next we have BCG vaccine is effective against dash. So I'll talk about BCG vaccine. It is given to the kids. So after the birth, kids are given vaccinations in order to prevent them from TB, that is tuberculosis. So do we have that option? Yes, we have option number C. So here your option number C, that is tuberculosis, is going to be the correct answer. That is option C. Then the causative organism for the cholera is what? Now we have known what is cholera. If I talk about that water which is not good, in which bacterial infection is there, bacteria are there in short, so it will lead to what? It will lead to cholera. In Hindi we call it heja. So what do we have option? Yes, we have option, that is option number A, that is bacteria, is going to be the correct answer. Simple. So yes, now talking about cystic fibrosis and hemophilia are the examples of what? Now we knew hemophilia, remember blood part. So yes, hemophilia and this cystic fibrosis. So yeah, what is the correct answer? Here you will be going with option number C. That is what? That is your genetic disease. Remember, from the parents they were transferred. Okay, so next we have thalassemia affects what? So if I talk about thalassemia, what it is going to do? If I talk about this thalassemia, here option number C, that is what? That is your hemoglobin is going to be correct answer. So it is actually affecting hemoglobin, and yes, hemoglobin is the one because of which your blood is actually red. So if I talk about these particular issues, they all are very, very important for the examination. Do not forget. Now, if I talk about an important points which are to be remembered, what all things we have studied today. So diseases are classified into infectious, non-infectious, genetic and deficiency diseases. What are infectious diseases? It is actually transferred from one person to another. That is communicable disease. So here it is transmitted from one person to another. And if I talk about non-infectious diseases, they are not transferred. Then, what are genetic diseases? They are caused by mutations. Sometimes it is inherited, but sometimes mutations are random. If I talk about causative factors of non-infectious diseases, what are they? It may be unhealthy food choices, or it may be physical inactivity, that is, you're not doing exercise, or it may be lifestyle habits, that is, we are talking about tobacco chewing or smoking. Now, if I talk about pathogens, what are they? They are disease-causing organisms. Vaccines, so they are effective in preventing infectious diseases, where you can talk about this corona vaccine, you can talk about VCG, which is effective against tuberculosis, right? Now, if I talk about hemophilia, it is caused by defective X chromosome. If I talk about thalassemia, it is caused by defective protein that synthesizes hemoglobin. If I talk about sickle cell anemia, it is caused by defective genes that cause RBC to be sickle in shaped, that is, its shape is actually changing. So these were the things which are very, very important from examination point of view. So please remember these particular facts and do not forget, all these facts are very, very important for the examination. So once you revise them, you will be sure that question is not going to come out from this part. Okay. So yes, bye-bye everyone. Please take care. We'll meet tomorrow in the next class. So bye-bye everyone. Please take care.